welcome back to the Pool Pro Podcast, episode number 9. As part of our drowning prevention series, you can learn from Colin's Hope on the tools that are available for service companies to make an impact in your community. Let's all work together to make a difference. Welcome back to the Pool Pro Podcast. This is Michelle Cavanaugh with my co-host,
Dave Rockwell.
Hey, Dave. Good morning.
Good morning.
We have Alissa this morning, who is the executive director of Colin's Hope. And this is part of our it's a 4-part series, really, as far as this podcast is concerned, because May is Water Safety Month, and we're very concerned about drowning increasing because of the stay-at-home orders that are in place in lots of areas. And Alissa will talk about this morning, because Texas is experiencing some increases in drowning, and that is a concern for us. We want to make sure that service guys and builders and everybody in the industry really understands what our role is in drowning prevention, how we can actually have an impact in our own community. And we want to talk about that today. So Alissa, thank you so much for coming on this morning. We truly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a huge and incredible opportunity to reach some people, as you mentioned, that can really help us move the needle in drowning prevention and water safety.
Can you just talk about what Colin's Hope is and how it was formed, so we understand the power of that association?
Absolutely. So Colin's Hope, we're a small but mighty nonprofit. We're based in Austin, Texas. It will be 12 years in August that we were formed, but 12 years ago in June, 4-year-old Colin Holst lost his life to a preventable yet tragic pool drowning in a lifeguarded pool here in Austin. Family and friends were there, lifeguards were on duty. Everything bad that could have happened on that hot summer day did. And sadly, Jeff and Jana Holst lost their 4-year-old Colin to what they learned was a preventable drowning. And after they learned the statistics that drowning is the number 1 cause of unintentional injury-related death for children under 5, and Colin was 4, that it's the number 1 cause of unintentional injury-related death, but it's preventable. So when they learned that statistic and kept hearing it over and over and said, we lost our child to something that could have been prevented, we have to do something. And they had no idea what they were going to do. So Colin drowned in June of 2008, and they formed Colin's Hope in August of 2008. So 3 months later, with really just, we need to get water safety messages out to families so that they don't have to go through what we went through. And personally, myself, my daughter, who's now a freshman in high school, was in preschool with Colin. So for me, it was a wake-up call as a parent that drowning was something I had to think about. I thought about bike helmets and car seats and all these other safety things. And I'm a competitive triathlete. I swim in the lake all the time. I swim in the pool. Ella could swim across the pool at 2 years old, but I had never thought that drowning was something that we needed to really think about until Colin drowned. Right. So I was a volunteer for the first 2.5 years. It was all volunteer led, and we were doing whatever we could, really, now looking back without a lot of rhyme or reason. It was, okay, we'll do a water safety walk. They did that in Arizona. That seemed like it worked. Okay, we'll play water safety bingo at community events, and we'll do all these things. And as time went on, after about 2.5 years, Colin's parents and the volunteer board, decided they wanted to hire an executive director. They wanted to have someone dedicated full-time to doing the work that needed to be done and make a real impact. So they asked me to do it. I left my very stable job with really great benefits that I had been at for 10 years that was actually in dropout prevention. So I didn't really know anything about water safety beyond my volunteering with Colin's Hope, but I had just gotten a master's degree in organizational leadership and ethics and figured what a great way to put it into action. And so sort of took a big leap and was the first staff person to come on board with Colin's Hope. And that was in December of 2010. I said, I'll do this for 5 years. I'll get them on a path. I'll get them sustainable. And if you do the math, this is my 10th year as the executive director now. And there are now 3 of us who work full-time with Colin's Hope. We have an amazing board, and we have over 3,000 volunteers every year that help us in a lot of different ways. And then we also have some incredible partnerships, both outside and inside the pool industry. And this partnership and these pool service industry partnerships are so important to us in doing this work, and you and I have talked about this, but the ability that pool service professionals have to be in people's backyards and to be a trusted person in that backyard,
Right.
to communicate water safety information that people have no idea. They don't know.
Right.
And so I know that was a very long-winded answer to your question, but Colin's Hope is now, about to be 12 years old, and we feel like we work both in Central Texas where we work statewide, and then we work across the country and beyond with a lot of the resources and programs that we have. So I'm just happy to be involved in any conversation with anyone who will help get in the pool with us.
Get the message out, right?
Get the message out. Yeah.
And Alissa, interestingly enough, Dave, she mentioned this, that she took a year in her field research to actually clean pools and service pools in Texas, so that she could really understand what service guys are doing, out in the field. And so I love that you did that, Alissa. What did you learn? What do you think you learned from that year experience?
Well, okay.
Is there a takeaway from it?
Huh?
Is there a takeaway from that?
Yes. Oh, there's a lot of takeaways from it. Well, and it kind of happened organically. A really good friend of mine, Patty Sue Wilson, was dealing with some cancer, and she owns a pool service company. And so I was, how are you going to do that and do all that you're doing? Let me help you. I'll help you one day a week. And I went and did it. And it ended up being such a laboratory for me with this work. I found that I loved it, the manual labor part of it, but I also loved the seeing in people's backyards and getting to experience the toys by the pool, the toys in the pool, the gates that are propped open, the things that we talk about when we talk about layers of protection, but really to see people and how they're interacting with the pool that's in their backyard, and really realizing that they don't know. I mean, how many squirt guns were left by the side of the pool, or at one home there was a baby carriage, like one that a child would push a baby, and that was left right by the pool's edge. And for me, it was just an incredible enlightenment around just people just have no idea. And the big takeaway that I had was probably that what a huge opportunity for pool service professionals to share information that can save lives. And it could be as simple as, hanging one of our water safety cards that has the layers of protection, or it could be continually moving Shamu the whale out of the pool and back by the house, or shutting the gate, or all those things. That was probably my biggest takeaway, was I don't think people really know. And so education is so key, but it's got to be education from all sides. So the child education, which is some of what we do, but then the parent and caregiver homeowner information that can come from trusted sources. And the trusted sources in this case, I learned because I became one. I would show up at the house with the pool pole and all the chemicals and all that stuff. And, you have conversations by the pool or as you're doing things, and what a unique opportunity and a powerful one. So that was probably my biggest takeaway.
A couple things that I picked up from that. Number one, you're very fortunate, because it sounds like you almost got hooked. You almost ended up like me, stuck in the business for 30 years. But the other thing that you started to see is all of the responsibilities that we have for all the things that we have to keep track of to keep people from getting hurt around a pool. As you were talking about the things that you saw, I thought about some of the things that I see. Time clocks boxes left open with no terminal protector, so a little finger could touch 120 volts without even knowing. Wiring the conduits that have decayed and wiring is exposed. There's pool lights that are wired improperly. There's so many things beyond. And that's one of the things that can contribute to drowning is electricity in the pool. And that has happened as well. But that's the thing that is driven home to me every time I walk onto a new pool, is the responsibility involved and all the things you have to know to make sure that pool is safe for your customers.
Absolutely.
Another one that I saw was drain covers. So because we work with the Zach Foundation and Abby's Hope, which are part of the Families United to Prevent Drowning group that we're a part of, and both of those children were lost to because of drain entrapment issues. And I found a drain at a pool that was missing a screw in the drain cover, and had to change, put the screw in and change the drain cover, and that's something that a homeowner wouldn't know. I mean, it was the fences, a gap in a fence, or a gate that's not closing or locking, like all those things, you see them. And yeah, such an opportunity. The
other thing is we change out pumps all the time, and we put in a variable speed pump that has the potential to be a 3 horsepower pump. Nobody, or too few of us, look at the drain covers and see and figure out if they match. Are they are they up to date? Does the flow rate match the pump we're putting in? Does the flow rate match the pipe size, the line velocities? There's a lot involved in pretty much every aspect of what we do.
Yes. I don't think a lot of service guys understand that. I think that, you get into a rut where it's like, okay, get to the next pool, get the chemicals in, get it cleaned, and you move on. And I really want this series of drowning prevention podcasts that we're doing for service guys to really, and builders, not just service guys, but builders in the entire industry, to understand what our responsibility is, because we can make an impact. And how many professions can you say that about? Right. An accountant sitting in an office doesn't have much of an impact as far as this kind of thing is concerned. Not that there is anything wrong with accountants. So accountants, don't write me and don't send me an email after this. But the service guys and the builders have such a way to be able to connect with their communities and connect with the people they're serving that I don't think they realize sometimes. So go ahead.
You mentioned the builders, and that's such a key thing. I mean, we're growing those relationships and wanting more relationships with builders, because wow, what amazing opportunity does a builder have from the very, very beginning of the process of someone having a pool in their backyard to build it so that there's some more safety things that are in mind. I mean, I cleaned some pools that were ledges that were not, that could have been safer, things, entryways, depth things, just things that if builders are looking through that lens of the safety when they're even proposing like the design of a pool, how amazing is that? And then you continue it over into, maintenance and all that comes with that. The spectrum of influence is huge. I mean, huge.
It's huge.
And the thing that I would like to be able to see is builders working with the homeowners to provide protections that they're going to actually use.
Yes.
The state here in California mandates very specific things: door alarms that have to be screwed to the door, fencing around the pool. And I'll be honest with you, when I go to start the pool up, as soon as the pool pass is final, things that are considered a nuisance by the homeowner get yanked out,
taken out,
and they're not there anymore. So rather than having laws that require specific things, I would rather see everybody have the freedom to choose things that are actually going to work and that they're actually going to use.
Yeah, it's coming at it from a reality standpoint, because I hate to hear that when they were working on some legislation that was similar to what you guys have in California here a couple of sessions ago, and it was talking about those adding the multiple things, and I mean, people put those alarms up, put the locks in, and then they take them out as soon as it passes. And how is that going to help? So looking at what's realistic and doable is huge.
And just for them to understand, Alissa, tell us what's going on in Texas right now with drowning.
Sure. So we've, given everyone's at home, and we've been under shelter in place orders, or shelter at home, whatever they're called, orders for, oh my gosh, what day did it go into effect? I don't know, over a month.
Yep,
and so we knew immediately that, oh geez, the weather is warming up. Spring break happened right in the beginning of all of this. So people being at home, there's this increased risk of drowning because of increased access to water and changes in supervision. Parents are trying to work at home, do the online school thing, which I know I'm trying to do all of that as well. And there's maybe water in the backyard in the pool that looks really, really great because it was 89 9 degrees here the other day. So,
Yeah.
so we feared that we were going to start seeing a spike in drownings. And we have seen a spike in the last month. So if we look at the numbers at the end of April from 2019, so because we're almost at the end of April. So if we look at the numbers just from last year, and again, this is not taking into our population rates and things like that. So you have to look, you know, there's a lot more that could go into the analysis of this. But last year at the end of April in Texas, we had 6 fatal child drownings, 6. And as of yesterday, which is, what is today, the 23rd. So as of April 22nd, we had our 12th report. So, and then we look at where are they happening. And right now of those 12, we've had 4 bathtubs. So that's water in the home. And that is typical to the year schedule. It's like we usually see a few bathtubs in the early part of the year because that's the access of water. You know, kids are being bathed all year round. So we have had 4 bathtubs. We've had 4 backyard pools now. And that's 2 in the last week. So that is, I do believe that is a piece of people wanting to use their pools, people accessing them, the weather warming up, people being at home. We've had a bucket. We've had a septic tank, and we've had 2 ponds. And ponds, one of them was last week, and it was unbarriered. You know, ponds are typically not barriered. There's not fences and access. And I think this was in the Beaumont area at like from what I can tell, it's kind of like a landscaping kind of pond, like an
Right.
you know, it was a mother and a son that both drowned in the pond. And so it was, people are out trying to, you know, be out and about in a safe physical social distancing space. And so we have seen that increase, and we're in a worse place than we were last year. Again, we haven't done all the population rates and all of that analysis, but
Right.
I do believe that we're seeing that spike because people are, it's getting hotter and people are having that access. And I know that the supervision piece it's great to say. Someone sent me a message yesterday on our Facebook after we did a broadcast, a live broadcast. We've been doing them daily for the last 35 days around different topics, trying to bring our water safety curriculum for smaller children, which are the people behind me are from the curriculum, but trying to bring that into families via our live Facebook feed, and then also covering things as they come up.
Right.
And talking about things that are pertinent. We were going to do yell, reach, or throw, don't go yesterday, which is the lesson around recognizing someone in trouble, yelling for help, throwing them something that floats, not going in after them. And after we had learned of the 12th fatal child drowning in another backyard pool, we quickly switched and changed our focus to barriers yesterday. And we're talking about the importance of barriers and what are barriers and how do you build a barrier, and had kids building barriers out of things in their house. And someone sent me a message afterwards on our Facebook message and just said, hey, that's great. You're talking about barriers. Awesome. But it needs to be all about supervision. You need to talk all about supervision. And I politely responded and said, I get it. And we always talk about supervision. We always talk about being a water guardian. We always talk about that is the first layer of protection, but we're also realistic that you can't just have one layer of protection. That's a layer of protection.
Yep.
And if that fails, you've got to have a barrier in place, or you've got to have had swim lessons, or you have to have no CPR, all those things. So, yeah, so we're seeing here in Texas for sure as it's getting warm, and we're seeing drownings, and all of those except for one were under the age of 4. So there was
That's
one.
so
14,
heartbreaking to hear.
Oh,
yeah,
totally. And we had a conversation. I think I was talking to you about this before we got on, but I had a conversation with my team yesterday, because when these are happening, it's very hard to not take it personally when you work in this work 365 days a year, sometimes 24 hours a day, and you still see these drownings happening. It's like, what are we not doing? How can we reach more people and get this out there? And I you know, we had a staff conversation about it. Like, we cannot take it. We are taking them personally because you can't not, but we have to figure out how to move through that, and then partnerships and collaborations that are going to help us reach more. And that for us is for sure the pool service industry and the pool industry as a whole.
Yeah.
That's something that I've been to drowning prevention meetings and tried to to educate myself and how to help my customers in the past. And that's the one thing to me is that amazes me about people who do what you do is how do you not take that personally? How do you not absorb the utter horror of an event like that? And how do you isolate yourself from it?
Well, I don't do it very well sometimes. I have this tattoo right here, that is what it's all about. The cracks in this heart are, the wound is how the light gets in. It's hard. And, and me as a person, just a human, I take a lot of that. I've 10 years now of doing it. And I was just telling Michelle that I went through some secondary trauma counseling this past summer to help myself, because I want to do this work. It's important work.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm actually personally have been called to do this work, but I have to take care of myself in that space. And it's really hard. It is not, it's something that I've learned through doing this, that I do carry a lot of, all of these families that we work with that are in this book are the stories. I carry these stories so close to me, and it's hard. It's not everybody. I don't think everybody could do it, nor should do it. And like I said, I feel very blessed to be able to do the work, and honored to help these families who've chosen to turn their tragedy into triumph to reach other people. But it is a lot, and I own that. I totally own that, and have to do some things and take care of myself. I've had to learn how to set some boundaries. I'm a competitive triathlete, so I run, I bike, I swim, I do yoga. That's how I center myself, and because I want to be able to do the work. But it is.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for what you do.
Me too.
After hearing the stories myself, I don't think I could do it every day, and I really appreciate you.
We need people like you to be doing this work, Alissa. So thank you.
Yeah.
What tools do you have for service guys and builders right now, Liz? If they wanted to be able to have tools to be able to see how they can make a difference in their community, what could they do?
Okay, so we have, and I know there's a glare, so it's hard to not for you guys to see this, but these are our water safety cards, and I'm pretty certain that some of these are going to be hitting your area soon. But these are we distribute 75,000 of these every year, and it's perfect for homeowners, perfect as a conversation tool, as a way to start the conversation around water safety and just things they can do. So I know it's a glare and I'm sorry, but I'll try to walk you through it. So there's a wristband attached, and this little piece breaks out of here, which I'll break one out on. This is actually one that we did with Latham and CoverStar, which are two companies in the pool service industry. So they did some custom cards last year. And so this is the I'm a Water Guardian badge. And the idea is that it breaks out of the side of the card. And this is where it asks people when they're near or around water with their kids to appoint an undistracted adult to serve as the water guardian. And you guys may have seen water watcher tags. It's the same concept. We use the term water guardian, and we're mindful about that because we are wanting to change and cultivate safer behaviors around water that are not just when you're at the water watching. It's sort of a culture thing. So we use water guardian, and we've been using that term for 12 years now. But so the water guardian badge is a symbol that, hey, if I'm the undistracted adult, I don't have my phone, I'm not engaged in a conversation, I'm watching the kids that are around the water. If I have to take a break, go to the bathroom, answer a phone call, I physically transfer that duty and that badge to someone else to say, hey, you're on duty, you're watching the water, you're the guardian. And because drowning is fast and silent, a lot of people think they're going to hear it, they're going to see it. Well, if I'm engaged in a conversation with someone next to me, or I'm checking, Facebook, or I'm posting something on Instagram, I may miss that child that is now struggling. So it's out of the side of the water safety card. And on it, so that's a tool. And we have all the layers of protection here that are water safety tips. So, and on our website, we have a page dedicated to each of those layers of protection. So if Learn to Swim is a layer of protection on the website, you can go and get basic information or super deep information around learning to swim, or barriers, keeping your home safer. So there's all of that. On the back of the card, which I'm sorry for the glare, but on the back of the card, that's a picture of Colin. You can read his story. It's a letter from his parents talking about what happened with him. On the back of the Water Guardian badge are 5 actions that people can do, and assigning an adult water guardian, learn to swim, wear life jackets, block access to water. So that's the barriers, learn CPR. And then there's a link to our water safety quiz, which I'll talk a little bit about that at the bottom of the card. So we love for our pool service partners to distribute these to their clients, their customers. From, like, for example, here in Texas, we work with Cody Pools, and they will put one of these, and we have them in English and Spanish, in the binder that a new homeowner gets when they get a new pool. So, welcome to your pool. Here's some water safety information right away.
That's a good idea. Yep.
We work with some other of our partners, and I'll just name them. They're here in Texas, and actually Aquaman in Arizona, but Patriot Pool and Spa, O'Neill's Pools and Hot Tubs, Heinz Pools here in the Central Texas area. They distribute these water safety cards to every one of their customers. Typically here, we usually do it at the end of April, leading up to Water Safety Month. It's an amazing opportunity to talk about have the discussion around water safety as people are getting in their pools and opening them. Not that they ever closed really here in Texas, and probably in California as well, but it's a great conversation because the wristband is here. They can hang it on the door also. So it's an easy leave behind. And we have had, Hal Denbar from Patriot Pool and Spa here in Austin. Last year, I think I was telling you this, Michelle, he sent out on his May billing, at the bottom of his billing statement, he challenged his customers to take the water safety quiz, which is 10 questions, everything from don't leave a child unattended in the bathtub to how to get out of a rip current and everything in between. And he challenged his customers to take the quiz. At the end of the quiz, there's a comment box. So he said, put in #Patriot. And if for everyone that took the quiz, he would give them, I think it was $10 off their next maintenance visit or something. He gave them some incentive. My email was blowing up. As soon as he sent that thing out, I had 100 in the first hour of people that actually went and took the quiz. So we know that we've increased their knowledge around water safety just by them going and doing that. And they can print out I'm a Water Guardian certificate at the end, but it's a great way to put that out there. And
that's an easy thing to do that doesn't take any time.
Free. And it's free. And so that's a super simple one. I did when I was on the Pool Chasers podcast last year, we challenged them in that podcast to say, go take the water safety quiz, and made a hashtag for that and was able to track. And we had pool service professionals from Rhode Island and Connecticut and Washington State and everywhere in between doing that. So that's something that I would love to do on this podcast too, is challenge people to take it.
Please do.
Because it's an easy way to educate parents and caregivers, and you can take it. Parents and caregivers can also take it with their kids and answer the questions, and you can't fail it. If you get a question wrong, it'll literally throw you a ring buoy and a hint, and then if you get it wrong again, it'll give you the answer and pass you on. And when we were developing the quiz, I didn't want anyone to fail the quiz or I wanted them leaving feeling like, wow, I learned something. So that's a huge resource that is totally free and easy, and it could be done just at the bottom of every billing. I mean, keep it there as like the signature. I don't know. And then the water safety cards, we have these, and people can order them. We can have the ability to do custom cards with logos. So for example, on this again is the one with the Cover Star logo on it. And we've had the National Drowning Prevention Alliance has done some custom cards, Aquaman Pools in Arizona, about 15 of the organizations that are, trying to find my book, that are in the Families United to Prevent Drowning group has done their own custom cards where they use our template, but then they they take out Colin's story in the letter from Colin's parents, Jeff and Jana Holst, and they put in their own story. So it reaches their own community. So these have been, 10 years of getting the content right, of getting it to be something that is waterproof. We did this crazy test of all these materials, and we were trying to find something that was waterproof because we want people to have them out by their pool or have them around. And then, other resources that we have, our website is a huge resource that anybody in the industry can send people to. It goes into all the layers of protection. And now these virtual broadcasts that we've been doing for the last 35 days are all on our website. So if you wanted to go watch the one that you and I did, we had a discussion the other day, you can now go and watch that. Right.
And it's colinshope.org, I'm assuming?
Yep, colinshope.org. And then in the resource, there's the top little menu, there's a resource tab, and if you scroll in the menu, it's the virtual family activities, and then the quiz is in there as well, the link to the quiz, so they can find it there. We have a evidence-based curriculum that's for preschool through first grade is kind of the sweet spot, but you can get older because we've got some extensions that actually have a pool service company in Houston. I'm hoping that this happens, but we talked about it, that are going to buy the curriculum for their employees to go out into the school that's near their office and teach the curriculum in classrooms there, which is awesome. Of course, now the end of this school year is kind of shot with the online school for the rest of the year, but that is such a cool way. It's an evidence-based curriculum. We know that that's targeted, while these are targeted at parents and caregivers, the curriculum, I have all my bucket of stuff here, the curriculum is targeted at the kids. And if we can work both sides of the spectrum, if we educate the parents and the caregivers and we educate the kids, then we can, create an even better safety net. And, with kids, we're trying to create safer behaviors around water. Wait for a grown-up. Grown-ups should watch you, learn how to swim. With adults, sadly, some of it is about changing behaviors around water. Right. And some of it's about just pure education, because as we talk about layers of protection, and a couple of years ago I coined this, I think it was actually last year, I coined this: blame is not a layer of protection in drowning prevention. Yeah. And you find when drownings happen, there's a lot of blame that gets put out there. Yep. And I hate that, because people don't know what they don't know. And that's something that I feel like, go ahead.
And as if
especially on the commercial side. Yeah, sorry, Dave, go ahead.
As if those poor parents aren't suffering enough. They have that piled on. That's right. I see that happen. I see those comments online, Facebook groups and so forth, and it sickens me, because I've seen just enough of this side of the coin to really understand what people go through, and it's horrible. I mean, it breaks up marriages. It's just, life is
ruins families. Yep.
Totally. Well, and drownings impact not just the person who drowned, but every person that's involved. And even, we haven't talked about non-fatal versus fatal drownings, but, non-fatal drownings are, it's underestimated that there's 5 times as many non-fatal drownings as fatal drownings. And if we back up for a second and educate around that, you may have heard in the past the terms near drownings. And we don't use that term anymore, because a drowning is a drowning. So it's just like if you had a heart attack, you don't have a near heart attack. You either have a heart attack and it's the outcome. So either you have a heart attack and you live, so it's a non-fatal incident, or you have a heart attack and you don't live and it's fatal. And we have the same thing with drownings. You can experience a drowning and the outcome can happen as fatal, or it can happen as non-fatal with no injury and the child or the person is fine miraculously, or there is some type of injury, and sometimes that's a brain injury, sometimes that's the emotional trauma and the financial hardship and all the things that everyone, I've seen families, the siblings that are involved in, there's, in the case of drownings, there's a lot of times when siblings witness the entire thing. and then also the aftermath, whether it's fatal or non-fatal. So I'm a fierce protector of these families. That is another role that, because I haven't lost a child to a drowning, I sit in that place with these families, and I will, you were talking, you know, when you see those comments, oh, I will come out mama bear big time on that, because that is so not fair and completely inappropriate. But we see it, and it's just, it's not helpful to anybody. And, you know. So
there's another term that that I've heard a lot in the past, and I've heard controversy about it. There's the term secondary drowning.
I was going to read your mind, so let's address that. Let's address that. I was letting you finish your thought, but and you might. And
I'm slow, so that takes time.
But you might throw dry drowning in there with the secondary drowning, and I would love to address that. And actually, on our website, there's a link that's called Not Out of the Water, and it's a partnership that we had with FCB Health. So yes, let's talk about that for a second. I don't know how much time we have, but I'm going to talk about it because it's important. So dry drowning and secondary drowning, those terms are not medically recognized terms. So we worked with Dr. Justin Semsbrot, who is he's an ER doc, but he's also one of the leaders on this particular thing that we're talking about. So we call it drowning after leaving the water. So what people used to say secondary drowning, it was like there was an incident in the water, and then maybe hours later or days later, something, you know, a child or a person.
They go back into distress.
Right. But what had actually happened was the drowning started by some type of liquid getting in, right? So the drowning is a process. So it starts with that, and then it can end immediately, or like in a typical drowning that we see, or it can end later. So something has gotten in, and then the body is responding. And so there are signs and symptoms that occur, and that website, notoutofthewater.com, goes into all the things that you should look for if a person has, you know, an incident in the water. So if you choke on water, if you have some type of intake of water, there are signs and symptoms that will show up. So similarly to, I race mountain bikes, right? So I've hit my head, I've had a concussion before. So when you hit your head and you may have a concussion, there are signs and symptoms that you look for, and you're on concussion watch, right? So it's similar if there's an incident in the water that happens, things that you can look for to say, has the drowning process started, and do we need to go get it checked out? Do we need to go see if there's water in the lungs? Do we need, you know, and the answer is yes, first of all. And those signs and symptoms are listed on notoutofthewater.com. It's things like irritability and coughing and fatigue and things that you might not, you know, some of them, if they stand alone, are just things, right? But if you know what you're looking for, or if you know that something has happened, you can look for those. And that website is a really, really great. Myself and Dr. Semsbrot were able to work with them to help construct the content, and there's some really great articles around that exact issue. But we're trying to not use those terms, dry drowning and secondary drowning, because they're not medically recognized. But you know, there were a few bloggers, mommy bloggers, whose children had a drowning after leaving the water, and were told it was a dry drowning or a secondary drowning. And so they put that out into their blog, and it went like wildfire. Right. And then it's something like there maybe 1 or 2% of all drownings are that kind. And so for me, it was very frustrating, because it was like, oh my gosh, all these people are panicking and freaking out over the 2% of drownings, when we've got the 98% of drownings that we need to keep people's attention. So it's something that I'm really thankful that we have that website to send people to understand it more, because it is an incident happens in the water, and then later things start showing up.
And I've met him. I've met the doctor at the National Drowning Prevention Alliance conference in the past. So I've actually met him, and he does great work. I've listened to him speak, and he does a great job.
He's amazing. He is one of the people I'm most proud to work alongside and do things with. And when we were approached by FCB Health they wanted to collaborate on that website, I immediately brought him into the equation to help with the content, because he's who I went to when those mommy bloggers were posting, and I called him and I'm like, Justin, I need help on messaging this. Like, how do we
do it?
Handle this? Because I want to acknowledge people's fear around this thing that they didn't even know existed. But, you know, how do we get the right information out there? So yes, he's amazing and is an incredible resource around that.
I think we should challenge, and we lost Dave. My co-host disappeared. You didn't offend him at all, Alyssa. I think he probably just had tech issues. Let's challenge everybody to go to the website and take the quiz. So can you direct them to where to go? And I love to use #PoolPro in the notes section to see how many people actually do it. So anybody watching this podcast, Alyssa, challenge them to go take the test.
All right, so here we go. Everyone out there, listen up. This is very simple and you can do it very quickly. Go to colinshope.org/quiz, and let's see if I can get the link up here. It's on here. We'll post it. colinshope.org/quiz. Take the Collins Hope Water Safety Quiz. It's 10 questions. Everything from don't leave your child unattended in the bathtub to how to get out of a rip current and everything in between. There's a question about drains. There's a question about barriers. Take the quiz, put in the comments section, hashtag, what did you want?
PoolPro.
PoolPro. So hashtag PoolPro. We will get that quiz. Once you submit it, it will come into my email. I will be able to see, and we can track it by zip code. So we'll be able to see where the zip codes are coming from. And maybe why don't we give a prize? We'll give a prize. We'll do some sort of prize after we'll pull a winner to send something out to. Perhaps, maybe, I'm a water guardian.
One of those great mugs. I love that idea. And I'll also send you a Pool Pro podcast t-shirt.
Yay, awesome.
Yes.
And yes, so please take and share the quiz. You can then send that link out, share it on your social media. Tell us, tag Collins Hope on your social media and tell us that you took it. I love seeing those go far and wide, just to see how big our reach is. And another thing that I forgot to mention that's a resource that people can get on our store, which is colinshope.store.org, are these bookmarks. And I realize the glare, they're hard to see, but these would be an easy thing to leave alongside the water safety card. So this is the parent caregiver piece. I love these bookmarks because you can't see it, but on the front it has what we call the whole hand rules, which are the primary 5 rules that we teach in our curriculum for kids. So they're wait for a grown-up should watch you, learn to swim, wear life jackets, open water safety, and then there's a drain rule as well.
And that's something they can put in their billing statements too, Alyssa. If you're sending out physical statements every single month, you can just slip that bookmark right in there.
Yes, it'll fit. And on the back, here's what I love. On the back, it says the blank family's water safety rules. And we put the first rule in there, which is we always have a water guardian. And then there's a space for 3 more rules for the family to come up with their own water safety rules. And so that can be another thing that you can get these at colinshope.store.org, and they're in batches. I think they're in batches of 25 or 50, and they're cheap. They're super cheap because they're super cheap for us to print. But yeah, you can put these if you're sending out physical envelopes, and then ask your people to share what their rules are with you. I mean, they can text a picture to show that they did it or something, but the more we have these conversations, both with parents and caregivers and with kids, we really can change the culture around water safety. And when we talk about that, that's a goal of ours, is that we create a safer culture around water. And we have a little video that is about our program director, Jessica Brown, and her husband, Tony, and their 2-year-old son, Alexander was literally born into this culture of water safety by the nature of his mom working for Collins Hope. And the character behind me, directly behind me, is that's Alexander. We made him a character in the curriculum, but he's 2.5 and he knows all of these water safety rules. He is comfortable wearing a life jacket when he's around water, whether he's getting in it or not. We feel like he's our little longitudinal study of this. This really, really works. We can, just like we teach kids how to not touch a hot stove, or hold a hand before you're crossing the street, or look both ways before you're crossing a street, or buckle up in your car seat. We can teach water safety with the same level of urgency at the earliest of ages, and we can build those behaviors, and so that they're the norm. So that's
norm.
what we're trying to do. So all these things together, whether it's parents, parents and caregivers, child information, or something that parents and caregivers can do with their kids, I do feel like we can really change that culture. And it's working with partners,
Yep.
like the pool industry and everyone to get in the pool together around this. So I so appreciate this conversation and you inviting me into it.
Absolutely. And I appreciate your
it.
passion, Alissa. Like Dave said, I'll just quote him, thank you for what you do, because we need people like you with this kind of passion for what you do to be able to make a difference in the world, and especially in the pool industry. So thank you so much for your passion and all you do. And if I could give you a big hug, I would, but I can't in this social distancing era.
I'll take it and
I
give
know,
it back.
right?
And
Thank you so much.
And know that this work is done, really, it's done in honor and celebration of these families. And I have so much admiration for their ability to turn their tragedy into triumph and make a difference. And that's what fuels my fire and my passion is the stories and the families and being able to work in a space because I can. And so, thank you for that. I send the hug right back.
Yes,
and
right back at you. Here's my heart. I'll hear my heart mug. I'll give you a big heart with my heart mug. Yes.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Alissa.
Yes,
we'll talk to you soon. We'll be working together. So we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Perfect. Have the best day ever.
You do. Bye-bye.
A new voice in the industry, a resource for all, education for you. This is Pool Pro Podcast. Build relationships and share important news as we get ready for our next backyard adventure. Pool Pro Podcast. Backyard adventures are better together. Please take a moment to share, like, and review our content with all of those that would be interested.